Hello class, this is CSE-4410, Chapter 13. This is going to be the final video for the entire course. And this chapter is going to be all about building your game. So let's get started with the presentation, and then we're going to go into a Unity project and build it out. Okay? Okay. Slideshow from beginning. In the beginning. The slideshow is in the wrong monitor. Okay. Forget that. Let's just change the monitor to primary monitor. Try again from the beginning. There we go. So, we're going to be deploying our game to our players' devices, but for this chapter, we're going to focus it on primarily desktop because, well, the content that we were talking about throughout the course was focusing more on desktop devices. So, if you want to port your game to, say, a mobile device, there are specific instructions for that. You can just view the textbook. You can just view that in the textbook. But since for your final assignment you are to present your game to the class, and it's most likely going to be in the form of a desktop project because you're going to be plugging in your laptop into the projector and all that. So this chapter is going to be more focused on deploying your game onto a desktop. The idea behind this is called build once, deploy anywhere. And that's because the code that we write can be run on most platforms. So, Unity projects, we can build the project into a standalone application for the following devices: Windows PC, Mac OS, Linux, WebGL, Android, iOS, tvOS, Oculus VR, Vive VR, Windows Mixed Reality, Microsoft HoloLens, and Magic Leap. And if you have a license for any of the following, you can also port it to Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch. Okay. As I said, we're going to be focusing more on desktop because, well, that's what the book is more aimed at. Okay. So, open up any one project that you have. And then I want you to press Ctrl-Shift-B. You'll be presented with a window that looks like this. These are your build settings. So let me explain all of this really quick. Target platform. For our case, it's going to be Windows, but if you are to make one specifically for Mac or Linux, you would select that in the drop-down menu here. Windows, Mac, and Linux are all clustered into one broad category called the desktop. Architecture. If you know you're going to be if you know that your target audience is going to have 32-bit devices, then select 32-bit. Otherwise, set it to 64-bit, or alternatively, you can have two build versions, 32-bit and 64-bit. The main difference between those two is 32-bit system has 2 to the 32nd power unique memory addresses available to it. So that's about 4 billion unique memory addresses. That translates to about 4 gigabytes of memory. A 64-bit system is not twice that. It's actually 32 more doublings after that. So that equates to about 18 quintillion gigabytes of RAM, which is more RAM than you'll probably ever know what to do with. How many Chrome tabs are you opening with that much RAM anyway? That's why we have 64-bit systems, because I guess 4 gigabytes of RAM was not enough, and we thought 640K was enough. That's the idea that Bill Gates said that 640K ought to be enough, or whatever that quantity is. That's basically an urban legend. But with 64-bit, I highly doubt anyone's going to be reaching the 18 quintillion maximum anytime soon. But it's for that reason that we have both 32 and 64-bit architectures. If you select 32-bit, it will run on both 32-bit and 64-bit. So if you just selected 32-bit, you can just call it a day. Unless you need more memory than that. For projects this small, I guess it doesn't matter as long as your computer is able to run it. Anyway, there is another set of settings here, and that is scenes in build. Basically, you get to include which scenes you are adding to your fully built game. So if you have any test scenes that you made for the purposes of, well, testing, you can just exclude them. Once you're done, all you gotta do is click the build button, or what I like to do is I like to click the build and run button. When you do that, you're gonna be prompted with a window that looks like this. Basically, you're gonna be asked, where do you want to store your built game? I personally went with a folder that's called built game, but prefixed with an underscore so that it shows first in alphabetical order. Once you select that folder, once you select that, or whatever folder you want, you're going to be waiting a little bit depending on how complex your game is. But once it's done, it's going to tell you that it's completed. Build completed with the result of succeeded in however many seconds it took. Okay, let's try it out. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of the projects, and let's go to Chapter 8 project, okay? And if you recall, Chapter 8 was one of the largest, I guess it was the largest project that I had ever had to go through with you. And you'll know that because, well, the video for that was like 2 hours long. That's the longest video I've ever made. Okay. So remember this game, right? Basically added onto it by adding an inventory system, run, grab all the objects, crash into the blocks, open the door. Pick up key, walk right out, walk right back in, open the door. Perfect. Let's build it. So I'm going to go to File, Build Settings. So now I have these build settings. What scenes do you want to add? I'm just going to click Add Open Scenes. So now we have the current scene. All the other settings I'm going to leave as is, but there is another set of settings that I would like to go over quickly with you. That is player settings. Look at this. So, there are a lot more settings that we can set for a game. I guess the most easiest ones to change are the company name, product name, version, icon, and cursor. The first three are pretty self-explanatory. For the purposes of this, I'm just gonna say company name is gonna be CSE-4410. The product name is gonna be Interactive Play World, because it's basically a world where you get to play with interactive objects. Version, let's just leave it at version 1.0. We can also select a default icon, so this is gonna be its own standalone application. It's gonna have an icon to accompany it. And optionally, we can also add our own cursor to it. So those are the settings we can change. So let's build and run. So I'm gonna click Build and Run. So it's gonna build the game and then it's gonna run the game. I'm gonna create a new folder, call it underscore build game, press enter, click on select folder. Now we wait. we have the Made with Unity splash screen. And now, we have the game. Press Alt-N to use GeForce Experience in-game overlay. You know it works when you have something like that popping up. Run around and around, crash into the blocks, they all go tumble. I can jump because there were jump controls already. Press C to change the color of this tile here, randomly. Go to this door, press C to open the door. I can walk in, and I can walk out. I had already collected all the things here, so if I equip the key, I can just enter the door. And walk back out. Okay, so that's it. Our game is finished. Except it's a little bit cumbersome to close. You gotta press Alt F4 to close the game. So as a little bit of polish, it would be worthwhile to add in a button that basically closes the game. So let's do that really quick. I'm going to create a... Okay, I'm going to go here, and under UI, I am going to select Button Text Mesh Pro. It's going to want to import Text Mesh Pro Essentials, import. And that's going to be it. So now, if I really zoom out, there's our button! Okay, so I'm going to click on the 2D view here, and I'm going to then move this button over here. So I'm going to set up this button using retained mode, but in theory it would also work with immediate mode. So I have a button, and for the text, I'm just going to say, I'm going to select the text here, and I'm going to say, quit game. So presumably you would have a main menu that has the quit game button, or it would be part of the settings pop-up, like the one we had in the last video, and we would have a quit game button in there. That also works. I'm just putting it up here for the purposes of demonstration. So I am going to create a new script, C# script, quit button. I am going to create an empty game object. I'm going to call it quit button controls, and then I'm going to attach the quit button script onto it. I am going to then edit the quit button script. Inconsistent line endings, yeah, we'll fix that up. Basic UI.cs, save those inconsistencies. Changes, I guess. Okay, here we have our quit button script. All I gotta do is simply add in a method. Public void quit game. No other parameters, so I'm gonna type in application.quit. And that's it. Okay, now we just have to assign that to the button. So the quit button script, well, this script would presumably be part of a larger menu system. So this would just be one of many methods to be called. I'm just going to set up like this for demonstration purposes. So I am going to drag and drop this quit button script onto the quit button controls game object here. Okay, I already did that. So I'm just gonna remove that component because we don't need an extra copy. I'm gonna select the quit game button here, and I'm gonna minimize this so it's a little bit easier to see. So on click, list is empty. Plus. Click the plus button. Now we are gonna drag and drop the quit button controls into the slot here. And then I'm gonna go to quit button, and I'm gonna select quit game. So that way, when I press the quit game button, it's gonna close the game. So now, I am going to go back to build settings, add open scenes, build and run. Select the same folder as before, build the game. Now we wait. Made with Unity splash screen, and look at that, we're in our game. Okay, there is a little bit of a problem, and that is I did not anchor that button correctly. But if I click that button, okay, say I wanted to play the game, I just run through all the blocks, click all the everything. Yeah. Open the door, go through the door, run at the door, use some health items, change the color of this panel, equip the key, open sesame. And now let's say we're done playing the game, so all we gotta do is click the button, quit game. And there we go. So, we can build and rebuild the game as often as we want. And for your final project, you're gonna want to build it as soon as possible to see that everything works, and then you can make your final changes and then rebuild the game as needed. Okay? Now, there are a few other instructions in this. There are a few more instructions in the PowerPoint slides. Basically, that extra thing is called platform defines, where we can add a few directives so that we have certain code that would only run in certain platforms. And this is a testing script that demonstrates what that code is. So, this platform test script here, we have if Unity editor, we're gonna put a label on the screen using immediate mode text, and it's gonna say running in editor. So in the editor, it's going to show this text here. On my monster of a screen, it's gonna show up really small, but it's gonna show up here. If the game is built, it's gonna show the same. It's gonna show the text running on desktop instead, but it's gonna also show it in the upper left-hand corner because that's how it was defined. But this is how we would use. Compiler directives to execute certain code based on what platform the game is running on. And there's a little bit more information on that. There is a link to a Unity manual. You can click on that and you'll be taken to a page that better explains all the player settings down here. And other than that, that's going to be basically it for the entire course. So when you build your game, you're going to want to follow these instructions here. So Control-Shift-B to open up build settings. You're going to want to choose your platform, whether it be a desktop platform or something entirely different. You're going to want to select the scenes you want to add to your game. You're going to select the destination to store your built game. You're going to build the game, and then once it's done, you should be able to play your game. Okay? Thank you, class. This is everything. This is all the content that is available for the course. And if in the future, game design, in the future, it is likely that I am going to be reusing some of these videos for the game design class for fall 2024. So, for those of you watching this in the future, you might want to pay attention to these videos as well. Okay? Thank you, class, for sticking with me through the entire hectic semester. Well, the strikes and all starting the entire semester. Anyway, that's gonna be it for the entire course. If you have any questions, definitely let me know as soon as possible, and I will be putting out these videos tonight. So hopefully, both should be available by the time you see these on campus. Okay? Thank you, class.